Hello guys, and welcome back to our next keynote for today with Steve Lidbury, Principal at 8 Inc. with the topic, the future of retail is not omni, but mono-channel. Let me explain that a little bit more for you because Steve goes in detail to that. For 2 decades, retail has thought and designed in terms of omni-channel, physical versus digital. With changing customer expectations and especially an increasing number of Generation Zers now reaching maturity, smart retailers should look to acquire a mono-channel mindset. What matters most is a seamless, holistic experience that moves away from offline, online transactions to agnostic transformations that blurs digital and physical into one with no boundaries. 8 Inc. Executive Principal Steve Lidbury explains what it means to design holistic retail experiences that connect the physical space digital touchpoints, focusing on human engagement. Please welcome Steve Lidbury. Welcome.
Thank you for that, yeah. Thank you very much. I'll try to make things sound a lot more simple as well in how hopefully I talk about this. So thank you for having me here. My name is Steve Lidbury, Principal at 8 Inc. And yes, I'm here hopefully to talk about not necessarily that Omni-Channel is dead, but what is the evolution of Omni-Channel and how can we think about evolving it for future retail experiences. And to begin with, though, I'm sure a number of people don't necessarily know who we are at 8 Inc. Very short introduction of us before I get into what MonoChannel is. Essentially, at 8, we are really united by the belief that design can truly unlock human potential, that it can really define who we are. And we use design as a powerful tool to create transformational experiences that really create better human outcomes for people and better business outcomes for the brands that we work with. We're very famous for creating the Apple Store concepts, working with Steve Jobs, our founder and CEO, Tim Kobe, for about 20 years. And we created the white paper on all of the original retail stores for Apple. And really that's held us in good stead as a business about how we think, how do we shift the paradigm, whether we're working in retail or hospitality or the banking sector, how can we create experiences that truly transform and progress the world? And what's really important is in a world where lots of brands speak very loudly, it's less about what you say, but it's much more about how you make people feel through your brand. And it's about how do we convey a brand's story, a brand's point of view through brilliant experiences that we can create. And we call it design human experience very simply. And we talk about design not only as being incredibly expressive of the brand, the aesthetics, the materials, the form language, the UI, and so on, but design that performs, design that drives revenue, design that drives acquisition of customer, or design that drives better NPS results. Whatever it might be, we think about design as performance too. We think humans are incredibly important. The idea that in a very digital age that we're in, the human factor is incredibly differentiating. So from a customer or a visitor perspective, understanding our audience, who they are, what they need, what their behaviors are, but equally from a staff point of view. In a world of automation, how can we really leverage staff to make them the heroes and activating retail experiences? And experience. Experience is where everything comes together. Experience is made up of these 4 different realms that tie together the relationship between a brand and a consumer. The space we're in, how the brand communicates, what products and services enable an experience, and what's the behavior model that bring the staff element to life. And that's how we can connect emotionally with brands. And as a last slide for this, we're very fortunate that we work with a lot of great businesses and brands around the world. We work across a multitude of sectors and categories, from pixel to peninsula, from digital to physical and so on. So that's a very brief snapshot of our world at 8 Inc. So on to what I would like to discuss today, which is the idea, the strategy of MonoChannel, which is something that we coined as a term over the last couple of years internally as we've been thinking about creating retail experiences. And it really comes from the continued argument that's been happening lately, which has been, or for a number of years, that e-commerce is killing my offline offer, or online and offline are in conflict, or how do I connect these two things? And it's quite a polarizing argument. And so we've wanted to address that head on and to think about, stop the conversation that retail is dead. Retail is not dead. Only bad retail is dead. Retail that doesn't understand the customer context, that doesn't understand audience behavior, that doesn't understand the way the world is going for the next 5 or 10 years, those are the brands that unfortunately die. And before we look into MonoChannel, just a recap on the premise of Omni-Channel. Essentially, it started with the transition, it was built on the transition of existing bricks and mortar retail strategies with an additional e-commerce strategy. It was an addition to what existed. And of course, it started in more of a multi-channel world where none of these channels spoke to each other. And then Omni-Channel developed and refined and evolved that so that it became much more of a connected set of channels. And the idea has been about unifying and kind of creating a consistency of these channels, which has been all valid and all very good. But it's still quite an internal business way of thinking. It's not necessarily totally customer-centric. And since when did being consistent be our ambition? Being consistent is really a bit of a hygiene factor, albeit it's very difficult to get there. And what that doesn't do is create a different differentiating point of view. And if you dig into the historical context of that, the only people who actually understand Omni-Channel are millennials and older generations, because we were around in a pre-iPhone world and a post-iPhone world. So we understood the idea of a fixed landline of an internet to access my e-commerce platform. Yet the audience that really matters, the audience that has 4 times the spending power of millennials, the Gen Z audience, the guys and girls that were born with an iPhone in their hand, they don't understand Omni-Channel. They don't get channels. These are people who are both simultaneously in the physical and the digital world, and they're not differentiating. And so they only think about technology when technology is not there. And this is what started our thinking around MonoChannel and how we make MonoChannel. And I've got a particular project that I'm going to share, which takes us through some of those steps of how we created a MonoChannel experience. And it starts with the brand, it starts with the location. I'm sure many people know of Xiaomi in China, leading electronics manufacturer, everything from mobile phones to TVs to homeware, really innovative and quite revolutionary products. 50 million plus customers and 150 million smart devices that connect to their platform. However, they had a challenge that there's more and more e-commerce competition, and so what they wanted to do was create a retail presence, what they called an offline retail presence, to build more meaningful interactions with their customers. They wanted something offline that connected with their online, and this is where our mono-channel thinking started, because actually if you look at who they are and what they want, they're after something innovative. And when they say they want something innovative, an innovative idea, well, an idea alone is not innovation. Innovation is only when the market adopts the idea. When everybody adopts it, then it becomes something groundbreaking and innovative. So to think about a retail presence for them was about understanding the audience, the context, the technology, the market. As many of you know, China is obviously a mobile-first commerce nation. And in fact, it's the only true mobile-first commerce nation, with 99% or something like that of all payments being done through platforms, WeChat or Alipay or whatever it might be. So we built the retail engagement model solely around the mobile-first consumer to think about and to reinvent and to experiment with the idea of retail. So understanding that context, then here's the challenge, and here's the challenge that every single retailer is facing. And for these guys, this is their first store that we designed, the flagship store, 600 plus square meters. The challenge is they've got 2,000 products, but we've only got 200 square meters of display. So as all traditional retail models, you do the math. You've got 200 products, 200 square meters. That equates to 200 SKUs. You do your math, and that's your projection. So there's a direct conflict with how can we think about displaying 2,000 products. That doesn't mean I need 10 different spaces or even bigger spaces, which is a huge overhead to my business. So there's 5 aspects to mono-channel as I'm going to explain it in this experience. And it's not that one of these is mono-channel, but it's together these things make up a mono-channel experience. The first key word is about this being simultaneous, physical, and digital, understanding that user behavior. So our product displays in here, if we put 2,000 products in here, with respect to Walmart, that's not what we want it to look like, right? We want to have a beautiful display, clean, elegant, premium, what it needs to be for the brand. But we do that both physically, but we also do that digitally. We created a digital portal working with partners that's enabled an augmented view of 2,000 product displays. And my user interaction, so I come in and I've got my app, whether I'm interacting with the physical display or interacting with the digital display with my QR code, I'm accessing the same content and information around the product, and we'll dig into that a little bit deeper. But I'm having exactly the same simultaneous experience, whether that's physically or digitally. What this means for the space is that I can flex my product range very, very easily. I can go to from 500 products to 2,000 products. I can update them in and out. I have a flexible business model system because of the digital augmentation in the physical space. And of course, I'm not spending more and more money on more and more real estate space. The second part is that ultimately what we are doing here is building an ecosystem that enables them to scale their offer from 200 SKUs to 2,000 SKUs. So 10 times the product offer, 10 times the amount of revenue through our digital portal. So whether I do that with a mobile device, my interaction is built around me as a customer. So if I'm on my mobile phone at home, if I'm on my mobile phone on the bus, if I'm on my mobile phone in the space with the digital portal or a physical product, I'm having exactly the same retail experience. It is the ecosystem built around rather than a channel system that is built around the customer. So this kind of fluid and dynamic world is one that's blurring the boundaries. There is no offline and online. This is the point of mono-channel. It is both of these things happening simultaneously as an ecosystem. Now, as we dig into it a little bit further, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where mono-channel comes to life. I'm not sure of how many people are familiar with Scott Galloway and his receptors and intelligence model. The new algorithm of value is what he calls it. He basically talks about the idea that all of the smart businesses in the world, so Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc., these guys have a multitude of different receptors that are receiving information into the business and translating that data, as we all know, into smart, tailored solutions. So every time I use Google, Google gets smarter. It tailors itself to me. Our digital portal here does exactly the same experience, so that every time a user comes up and interacts with it, with their mobile device, and they access it through their QR code, it gets smarter with every activation. Every decision a customer makes, when a customer drops out of a flow, it can understand at what point of the flow and why. Was it price? Was it color? Was it a lack of options? So we can very quickly build up a picture of understanding preferences, which then informs the product sales strategy for that store. So this flexible ecosystem is enabling Xiaomi very, very quickly to change their kind of inventory management to think about the different products that need to come in space to sell. So it's about a retail system becoming intelligent and smarter, moving away from just interactions to intelligence. Now, in a world of retail, we're always talking about let's have touch points for interaction, and that's all lovely. But interaction that's not smart is frankly just dumb. It's dumb fun, it's good fun, but it's dumb. So if we can think about interactions that are becoming intelligent and feeding that into the business, then we have innovation, and then we have a kind of what we call a mono-channel experience. The fourth part is that this is about communication and dialogue. This is about brands shifting from just broadcasting to actually having a kind of feed of communication. The first part of that is the digital feed, the digital to human communication I'm having with the mobile phone. The second is that our staff have newly defined roles within that space. So they are no longer doing cash wraps in the space because you've got click and collect and delivery and loads of other mechanisms. They are there to be the voice of the brand, to provide expertise, education, and empathy, human conversation. And in a world where 99% of the population are looking down at their phone all the time, the human interaction is the massively differentiating bit for brands, in particular coming from an online to an offline play. So the human role is elevated here, which is critical. So we move from broadcast to dialogue, from the brands that are going one direction, we're just shouting out messages, to those that want to create a bit more of a fluid communication with ultimately people who are their members. Which moves us on to the very last facet of MonoChannel, and perhaps the most important one, that all of this adds up to the idea of community and membership. That through participation, through engagement, through this kind of continued dialogue, this live feed of two-way dialogue, is enabling this participation. Something I didn't mention as well is that Xiaomi also test their products at a prototype level with their 50 million users. So not only can it inform sales strategy, it's informing product development strategy. So as a membership group, the value for consumers is they're contributing to the products that are being developed by Xiaomi. And so we're shifting from an old world of loyalty, which is the world where people are talking about promotions, discounts, free shipping. That's the old world of loyalty, to a membership model. MonoChannel is about creating a membership community of added value. So it's like a platform. The MonoChannel retail experience is a platform for exchange that adds values to both parties. So to summarize, and to think about how we might design the future, what we're really saying is, we're not saying Omni-Channel is dead, but is it perhaps a bit outdated? It's been our good friend for 20 years. And like all good friends, we love our friends, but we need to evolve, we need to adapt. We need to think about the next 5 and 10 years. And actually, the mono-channel world is here and now because we're all in this situation. And we sum it up simply as simultaneous physical, digital, and human customer relationships. It is not an online versus online. It's not e-commerce versus my physical store. It's a different mindset that connects and thinks about these things together as one. So we shift from a world that is fixed, channel-focused, dumb interactions, broadcast only, and the old world of loyalty, built with a kind of internal business mechanism, to the world of mono-channel, which is built customer-centric, absolutely around the needs of the customers, with a flexible product offer that is both digital and physical at the same time, which creates an ecosystem built entirely around blurring the boundaries of online and offline. An ecosystem that gets smarter with every time I use it. It becomes more intelligent with every interaction I have, so it gets more and more tailored to me and adds value to the business, which means we have this wonderful dialogue. We have a live feed and a dialogue of between, rather, the business and its consumers, which adds up to this idea of membership, of a mono-channel membership, which is going to be the true thing for building long-term loyalty and advocacy and basically fans for your brand and your business. So thank you. That's it. Cheers.